We have no financial disclosures on this project. Now, we are familiar with certain captions and headlines that read like this. So in part, this was our motivation for this project. However, in the 2016 paper by Cassidy, did shed some light on these adverse events, and the suggestion was made that these adverse events, strokes in particular, were strokes in progress when these people attended to the practitioners. Now, of course, we'd like to study that a little bit. So how can we answer that question? Are these strokes in progress, or are they something else? Most of us are quite familiar with the ineffective screening tests that we do on the upper cervical circulation and stability. One reason for that may be that the screening tests are not looking at the end organ of concern. Now here, specifically by end organ, I'm talking about the cerebral cortex, because we're looking for symptomology from the cerebral cortex, not from the conducting arteries as the tests are designed to look at. Now, we're talking about the hemodynamics of the cerebral cortex, and the gold standard for that would be functional magnetic resonance imaging, of course. However, MRIs are quite expensive, they're also time-consuming, and they also present some problems in the average MRI in positioning yourself and moving the neck within that MRI. The bore might not be quite the adequate size. So we might have some answers in the use of near-infrared spectroscopy or functional near-infrared spectroscopy, we call it NIRS. Now basically what NIRS is a light in the near-infrared region of the spectrum between 700 and 900 nanometers. So that we refer to as the optical window. And the reason why we refer to that as the optical window is because at that wavelength, you're getting information on the status of the hemoglobin molecule. Now that's a very important molecule. So the hemoglobin molecule, oxyhemoglobin, deoxyhemoglobin, that change has to do with function. And in this case, it has to do with different neck positions. Now, NIRS is very cost effective when you compare it to MRIs. Very cheap, highly mobile, fast to use. With respect to validity of NIRS, quite a lot of cross-validation studies have been done with NIRS and MRI. The major one is at Harvard, a gentleman by the name of Ted Huppert, back in the early 2000s. He did quite extensive work in cross-validation. Okay. At our university in the work physiology lab, we did some work on retest reliability. And these reliability studies were averaging between 0.8 and 0.9 on the ICC. So with respect to the principles of NIRS, you're essentially illuminating the cortex with the light, and that is giving us changes in the hemoglobin molecule associated with the neck position movements. Now here on your right, you have these wavelengths, and oxyhemoglobin absorbs the greatest amount of light at about 850 nanometers. Deoxyhemoglobin at 760 nanometers. So what that allows is for us to determine the concentration of oxyhemoglobin and deoxyhemoglobin with the near-infrared light. So essentially, we are tying the neck movements with oxyhemoglobin and deoxyhemoglobin changes. Now, before we move on, in these studies, the standard approach is to classify total blood volume as total hemoglobin. And total hemoglobin would be deoxyhemoglobin plus oxyhemoglobin. So we are using the total hemoglobin as the surrogate for total blood volume. So the purpose of our study was then to see if there is actual change in prefrontal blood volume associated with these neck positions. Now, we were hypothesizing that there was no significant change. So our methods, we're using the nares, we're also using the upper track to track various neck positions. We had 14 graduate students, ages between 23 and 35, and they were positioned in supine and then passively moved into 8 different neck positions. Now, the infrared machine has to be stabilized, so that takes about 30 seconds with the person resting. And then the passive movement took 2 to 4 seconds, and then the person was held for 30 seconds within that position. At that time, we were able to basically have peak measures of oxyhemoglobin and deoxyhemoglobin, or rather total hemoglobin, in that position. And we were using a delta measure, and I'll explain to you why in a minute, of the peak total hemoglobin minus your baseline levels of total hemoglobin. Now, our dependent variable was total hemoglobin, and using a two-way repeated measures ANOVA, our within subject factors were the head position and the side of the cortex. So we're looking at both left and right. Now, this is a representative trace of what the nares trace looks like. So on your left, we have our baseline measures, which we obtained. On the right, in the pink, would be our peak. Now, the green on this tracing is your total hemoglobin, so we're tracking the green for total blood volume. So our results. Importantly, we had a significant interaction between neck position and side of the cortex. With respect to our main effects, after the greenhouse guided adjustment, there was no significant effect of position itself and side itself. Our power was 0.6. In looking at the main contrast with the different neck positions, flexion was associated with less blood volume. The limitations of our study. Firstly, it was low power. It's a preliminary study. We had an N of 14. Secondly, we had a very liberal exclusion criteria in that we took graduate students from the lab, many of them with no history of psychiatric or neurological diseases, and in near studies, we particularly pay attention to those conditions because they impact cerebral blood flow quite significantly. Ingestion of caffeine is also another issue in alcoholic beverages that might tend to impact the blood flow as well. We have some device issues in the sense that we use delta values here, and that's the machine we have. For those of you who might be familiar with nares, there are about 3 different types of nares. Some can use absolute values, so you will be able to interpret better, right? But here we're using just delta values, so we have to be careful with that. Intuitive questions like penetration depth of the near infrared light. I'm sure you're thinking of that. Now, the near infrared light goes maybe about 2 centimeters in, which is sufficiently deep to capture all the information in the cerebral cortex. Now, in infants, which this procedure was designed for, it goes all the way to the subcortical region. But in the adult brain, a little bit harder, we tend only to go to the cortex, which for our purposes is adequate information. And finally, extracerebral contamination such as blood flow in the scalp. Again, reasonable. However, these measures, the depth and the extracellular contaminations, have been extensively studied in those cross-validation studies with MRI that I mentioned. So finally, the most important part of this study, the strength of this study, is that we're looking specifically at the end organ of concern. If you look at the most advanced studies when it comes to screening tests of the neck, and I'm thinking of Quinnell and Triana, right? They look at C1, C2 level of the vertebral artery using MRIs. And that was highly sophisticated, very, very important work. As a matter of fact, I think it won the 2013 award. But here we are moving one step further. And the reason why we need to move one step further is because you can recall the circle of Willis. Its specific mechanism is to adjust to obstruction in the contributing vertebral arteries. Now we've moved beyond or cephalad to the circle of Willis, because there's where our symptomology is arising from. So why not go there if we can? So we are concluding that NEARS appears to be, it says it is here, but it appears to be an appropriate measure of prefrontal blood volume changes with neck positioning. Okay, it has some potential, clearly. We're also stating that there appears to be a direct association between neck positioning and prefrontal blood volume changes, albeit with the interaction with side. So future considerations, clearly we need some larger clinical trials with NEARS, and given the fact it's so easy to use, it might be quite easy to do. And finally, we're looking here with this study to use the available technology to advance the pre-manipulation screening that has caused us so much concern over the last several decades. Now I'd like to acknowledge our sponsors here. I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Bombani, my supervisor for my PhD, and thank you very much.